cord clamping because everybody tends to look at it differently. So I also do want to talk about what kind of not to do. And I always hate to say that, what not to do. Like you can do whatever you want, but you know. I'm Petra. I had a vaginal birth after 3 cesareans. I'm a VBAC doula and birth educator, and I feel called to tell you that you deserve the birth experience that you want. I want you to join me every week to hear empowering birth stories, heart-led conversations, practical tips, evidence-based information, and yes, we definitely dive into the woo side of things too. My hope is for you to leave each episode feeling inspired and informed. Thank you so much for including me on your journey to be back. Now let's get into this episode. Hi. So if you have noticed, I haven't been having experts or people sharing their birth stories on the podcast because I have actually just been so busy curating this VBAC membership that you may or may not have heard me talk about recently. It has been like, I swear, it feels like I'm preparing for just like birth. It's like my baby. Like if you heard or not, it's like a baby. Like it is just so much to prepare for. Oh my gosh. And I'm getting ready. I was supposed to launch it on the 31st of January, which was Luke's birthday, my VBAC baby's birthday. But my whole family got a stomach bug. So here we are, not launched yet. It's okay. I'm making myself be okay with it. I hate saying something and not doing it when I say I'm going to do it. So that's really hard to get past, but I am going to start launching it Friday. It is ready to go, and I am just feeling so good about it. And if you want to learn more about it, go ahead and head to the waitlist, which is at birthingcometrue.com/membership waitlist. And I have some of the details on there, but if you want more details, you can feel free to follow me on Instagram at birthingcometrue and shoot me a DM on there because I love to be able to talk about it with as many people as I can. So, anyways, okay, so getting into today's episode, I really wanted to talk about VBAC friendly birth plans, like what to include and what to avoid, and just why they're so important. And I feel like this is such an empowering tool just because it helps you it helps you kind of learn what you do and do not want. But before I get into like the details, I want to start by saying this. Your birth plan is not just a list of preferences. It's not. And it's also not a rigid plan to stick to. This is an opportunity to connect with your big birth vision, as I like to call it, to communicate your values, learn what your options are, and just overall take ownership over your birth experience. And I know that birth plans can feel so overwhelming. I've been there, multiple times. And this can be especially hard if you've heard people say, birth never goes according to plan. But here's one thing. It's not about trying to control every single outcome. It's about honoring your intuition, making informed decisions and choices that align with your values and beliefs, and trying to set the stage for the birth experience that aligns with what matters most to you, not to anybody else, to you. So, I want to talk about creating that VBAC friendly birth plan that feels empowering, flexible, and deeply rooted in your vision of what you want this birth to look like. So, first, let's talk about what sets a VBAC birth plan apart from like a general birth plan. So, obviously, when you're planning a VBAC, you're navigating a unique set of considerations because you've had a previous cesarean, you now have a scar in your uterus, and doctors can treat you differently. Not all do, but a lot of them do. So, choosing a supportive provider, understanding hospital or birth center policies and regulations, and trying to balance your goals with the realities of your previous cesarean experience. Your birth preference plan is a chance for you to advocate for what you want, to communicate your preferences clearly, and to make sure that you're setting yourself up for the best possible chance of having the experience that you have been dreaming of, that you desire. But, I just always want you to remember this too. Your birth plan isn't just for your provider or your birth team. It's not just a paper that you hand to them and just expect them to abide by everything as if it were law. This birth plan is for you because it's a chance for you to do some research and to learn what may or may not be offered at like your birth location. And this can also be a plan that is like kind of like a declaration of your values, your choices, and your belief in your body's ability to give birth. And I get it. When we think of a birth plan, we're like, I want intermittent monitoring, I want delayed cord clamping. But some of us fall into those pitfalls of thinking that we just need to have all the things on there because, this influencer said this is what we have to have, or this doula said that this is all the things that I have to have the birth that I want. But it's just not true. It's not true that you have to have XYZ, otherwise your birth is going to be ruined. That's not the case. So I want you to try to release yourself from feeling that way because I used to feel that way. I used to feel like I have to have, all the things that I said, intermittent monitoring, delayed cord clamping, freedom of movement, just because everybody else said that I needed to. But I didn't actually understand why this was being said, why this was being said that it was helpful when you're planning a VBAC. I didn't understand that. I didn't understand the why behind it. So, one thing that I really do highly encourage you to do is, yeah, it's great. I want you to look at all of the things and put all the things on your birth plan that you really do want, but also look at the behind why you want this. What are the benefits of you having this certain thing on your birth plan? How will it help you? So just take that into consideration with everything that you're putting onto your birth plan because it is way more than just sticking things on paper and expecting your birth support team to follow it. Because birth ultimately, like I've talked about before, is very unpredictable. And of course, we would love for our dream birth to go exactly to plan, just to a T, but it just doesn't always happen that way. And that's okay. There's nothing wrong with that. It might go to the left instead of to the right, but maybe you needed that pivot for one reason or another. So I want to break this down, like the key components of what to include in your birth plan. So number one is your preferences for early labor. So start by outlining how you want to labor at home before heading to your birth location. If you're not already planning a home birth, do you want to move freely? Do you want to use water for pain relief? Maybe you want dim lighting or quiet music to help you stay grounded and feel calm. This is your time to connect with your body and your baby. So think about what will help you feel safe and supported no matter where you are. Number two is freedom to move. Movement is such a powerful tool during labor. So be absolutely clear about wanting the freedom to change positions, wanting to walk, squat, use a birth ball, whatever that is. And if they say, like, oh, continuous monitoring is required, you can also ask if they have wireless monitoring or if they can just intermittently monitor you so that you can stay as mobile as possible. Because it is hard to kind of move. It's possible, but it is harder to move when you are connected by a cord to a machine where you only have like 3 or 4 feet of movement. So, and even if continuous monitoring is a policy or requirement, it actually doesn't mean, and I'm not telling you to go against it just to go against it, but I just want you to be aware that you don't have to comply if you truly don't want to. Now, this is totally up to you. It's whatever you feel comfortable and confident in. And if it makes you feel more at ease to be monitored, then go for it. That's totally up to you. I'm not here to tell you which way to go. I'm just telling you these are your options. Now, number three is pain management preferences. Whether you're planning to use an epidural or go unmedicated, include your preferences here. And if you're open to using like other coping techniques that are unmedicated, like breathing techniques, hydrotherapy, massage. I want you to share all of that in here as different options. And definitely plan to go unmedicated. Whether you want that epidural right when you get there or not, plan to go unmedicated because, and I hate to break it to you if you don't know already, but your epidural doesn't always work. Sometimes, the placement's not great, or sometimes one side of your body goes numb and is working with the epidural great, and the other side is not. So you could be, expecting to get relief and then you don't for whatever reason. So, or you don't get the epidural on time. There's multiple things that can happen here. So I always tell people to plan to go unmedicated, even if you're planning to get the epidural. So, you're not unable to cope in a time where you really need to know how to cope. And, if you change your mind at any point, birth plans are living documents. These are not contracts that are set in stone. So you can always, always, always change your mind. It's never too late. Now, number four, your preferences for pushing and giving birth. When it's time to push, you might want to avoid directed pushing and let your body guide the process. Or maybe you'd like to push in different positions like hands and knees, squatting, or sideline. And these are all great positions that can be used with or without an epidural. There are ways to do these positions in a supported way if you do have an epidural as well. So absolutely be clear about your preferences for when it comes to delayed cord clamping, the immediate skin to skin, whether you are keeping your placenta or not, whether you want your baby wiped down or vigorously stimulated, because there's a lot of things that they will do that is just part of their protocol that, might not necessarily align with what you are envisioning. So definitely look into that, and you can go to your place of birth and or your provider and ask them what their typical protocol is when it comes to these types of things so that you're mentally prepared for what to expect and, potentially have your partner prepared to advocate for you if need be, if it seems like somebody's not following your preferences. And there's so many other choices that might feel important to you in the moments after birth. Like I personally had one client that she had like a family heirloom that was like a piece of fabric that she wanted the baby to be laid on before the baby was then laid onto her chest. So, there could be rituals that you want to happen, and, you can ask that to be honored. Don't feel embarrassed about it. Everybody's so different. You might feel like something's weird to ask for. It's not weird. I'm sure they've heard it, or they are willing to, give you what you want if it's really important to you. Now, number five is one that can be kind of touchy for some people. And you don't have to do this. You absolutely don't have to. This is a personal choice, but cesarean preferences. So you can include cesarean preferences if you want. Like I said, if you want. And this isn't about planning for a cesarean because you feel like you can't do it. It's about being prepared for every possibility while staying true to your values. And this step isn't for everyone. But personally, I typically offer it up to my clients if it will make them feel more confident in their choice to have a VBAC because they feel like they've covered all of their bases. And if we do create a cesarean plan, then I always suggest creating it and not looking at it again unless it is needed in the time of need. Like if you are having a cesarean, then you pull out that cesarean plan because we don't want to put any energy towards that scenario happening. I don't want them visualizing that it's happening. I am a firm believer in like whatever our mind continues to think about, a lot of times that happens, whether it's something we want to or don't want to happen, if that makes sense to you. So when creating a cesarean plan, think about what would make a cesarean feel more family centered for you. Maybe it's keeping your arms free to hold your baby, having a clear drape, or having a maternal assisted delivery, which is pulling your baby out of your abdomen yourself with your hands. Now, I have seen this done where they will have the mom put on a gown over her chest and her arms and put gloves over her hands, and she will literally be the one pulling her baby out of her stomach. Um, so obviously these are things that can happen if it's not a true emergency. And I do also want you to think about cord clamping. So you can tell them, do not cut the cord. I want to be the first one to cut the cord, or I want my partner to be the first one to cut the cord. So I want the placenta and my baby attached until we cut the cord, if that's something that's important to you, so that you can have delayed cord clamping. And in any situation, if you do want delayed cord clamping, be specific, because every place that I have personally went to and a lot of people who I talk to, their definition of delayed cord clamping is different. Like for some hospitals, it's 1 minute after the baby comes out. For some, it's 90 seconds. For some, it's 5 minutes. For some, it is when the cord turns white, completely white, because when the cord comes out, it looks like dark, like purplish, because there's blood fusing through the umbilical cord to the baby. So when the cord is white, completely white and not pulsating, it's limp, that is considered delayed cord clamping to some too. So there's so many different definitions to this. So be very specific when you are talking about delayed cord clamping, because everybody tends to look at it differently. So I also do want to talk about what kind of not to do. And I always hate to say that, what not to do. Like you can do whatever you want, but I'm just including this because one of the biggest pitfalls that I see is creating a plan that is way too rigid. And I get it. You've worked so hard to prepare for this VBAC, and it's natural to want everything to go perfectly to plan. But like I mentioned already, birth is ultimately unpredictable. And sometimes the plan needs to shift. And that is absolutely okay. Flexibility doesn't mean that you're giving up control. It means staying open to the flow of your birth while staying grounded in your intentions. So here's a little example. Let's say you plan to labor in the tub, but then you find out that you are way more comfortable swaying with your partner or leaning on a birth ball. That does not mean that your plan failed. It means you're listening to your body and doing what feels best to you in the moment. And we can put the best laid plans forward and then just feel like everything sucks that we put on that plan because nothing feels good that we put on the plan. So when you build flexibility into your plan, you are giving yourself permission to adapt without losing sight of what is most important to you. Because I don't want this to be a stressor in your labor where you're thinking like, where's my birth plan? Let me grab my birth plan. Okay, guys, this is what we're doing now. Like, no, that is not birth. You are not a machine, okay? Birth is a flow, and there's so many variations to the flow of birth. Every different iteration of birth is normal because there's so many different possibilities. Now, creating your VBAC birth plan isn't just about what you want. It is also about making sure that your provider and your birth setting align with your vision. So start by sharing your birth plan with your provider early on. Earlier the better, honestly, because this is a chance to ask questions or address concerns that might come up and just make sure that you guys are on the same page. And if your provider seems dismissive or unwilling to support your preferences, that might be a red flag for you. So it is absolutely, and I know I say this a lot, but it's never too late to change providers or even birth settings. I had a client who she was, let's see, I think she was 39 weeks and she was planning a home birth, but something changed, something switched, and she ended up having a hospital birth. and, having me as her doula and everything. And it was such a beautiful experience. She did actually have like a shoulder dystocia with her baby, and her baby was like 11, almost 11 pounds, but she had such an incredible birth. Like, that was one for the books. I mean, I just think about it and it makes me want to cry because it was just like such a beautiful experience. So you never know, it might happen that way too, where it's the opposite, where you are going to have a hospital birth and then something just doesn't feel right. All of a sudden, you hear somebody talk about a home birth midwife and they got a spot that opened up, and you talk to that midwife and you guys click so well and you feel so comfortable and confident with them. And then you end up having a home birth. So you just never know. So remember that you are the one giving birth, not your provider. You will be the one that will have this experience ingrained into your mind forever, not them. So your choices are the ones that ultimately matter, and you deserve a team that respects them. And here's the truth: the most important part of your birth plan is not the checklist or the preferences, it's you. Your intuition is your greatest guide in this process. You know your body, you know your baby, and your values better than literally anyone else. If something feels off, trust that feeling. If something feels right, lean into that. It's okay to change your plan as you go. It's okay to advocate for yourself, even if it feels uncomfortable. And it's okay to say, this doesn't feel right for me. I'd like to do something different. Birth is a partnership between you and your baby. And your choices are what create the environment for that partnership to thrive. So I just wanted to give you a little snippet of what you can include in your birth plan and why your birth plan matters and why it matters to be flexible. Because ultimately, and I can't say this enough, but your body is not a machine. I know that your doctor is going to say, like, you have to go into labor before 39 weeks or we're scheduling a cesarean because XYZ, or they don't even give you a reason. That's just the way they do things. But they do that with everybody, and they're not taking into account your unique history and your and your unique desires for your birth. You are. So you are the one that has to be in the driver's seat here. But also leaning into that flexibility, no matter what that looks like for you, so that there's not this rigid plan that you feel like you have to stick to, or or you failed, because you have not, and you might not realize it now, but maybe it's something that you need to go through in order to learn something in your life. And I just relate it to my experiences. I had 3 cesareans before I had a vaginal birth, and because of each of those experiences, it created something different inside of me. So when my labor started with my VBAC, with my fourth baby, I was excited. When people told me I should have been scared, I was so excited. I was like, "Oh my gosh, my body is doing this. Like, I can do this." And I wanted it so bad. I just wanted it so bad. I wanted to trust myself. I learned to trust myself because I never had before. I learned to be flexible, and I, I was not the greatest at being flexible before. I just was like, okay, this is the plan. We got to follow the plan. Like, yeah, birth changed me. And every single one of those experiences that I went through changed me in one way or another. And it helped to build me into the person that I needed to be, to have this beautiful, amazing, transformational VBAC experience that is hard to even describe because of the way that it makes me feel. Like, it literally changed the trajectory of my whole entire life. And I seriously, I don't say that lightly. It's incredible. And now I'm able to help women on their journeys because I was able to be flexible. And then I became a doula, and that made me be even more flexible because I have to be, because being on call for a birth, I have to be able to, like, drop what I'm doing at the drop of a hat and go support somebody. Even if I'm having a hard day, I have to switch out of that, bad mood or whatever it might be, to go into this mode of service, support, love, and it just changes you so much and in ways that we never could have even imagined or could have even realized that we needed. So it all begins with you and what you're willing to do and what feels aligned with you. And I know I say you a lot because it is. It's about you. I can tell you all the advice in the world on what I feel like would help you have a quote unquote successful VBAC. But that doesn't matter because I don't know your unique situation. I don't know how much you've mentally or physically prepared for this. I don't know if you're ready to be flexible. I don't know if you're ready for the intensity of birth. I don't know what you've been through in your childhood, what traumas you've experienced or not experienced. I don't know your relationship between your partner and you. Is it strained? Is it loving? There's so many different nuances to this, and I feel like being flexible is everything. Like, and I wanted to create this to talk about birth plans, but it's not really about birth plans. It's about learning about yourself. Because once you start digging into your birth preferences and what you do or do not want, you start to look inward and it starts to bring out conversations potentially between you and your partner. And it could help grow you in ways that you may not have even realized you needed to. Like when I was planning my VBAC, I had never talked to my husband about the cesareans and how they made me feel broken, how depressed I was because I felt like I failed. He never knew that until years later when I was planning my VBAC and I finally told him. So things like this can bring up conversations that have needed to happen, but we might not have known how to bring them up. So try to lean into this experience and be open to it taking you onto different roads than you did not expect. It's not just about creating a birth plan. It's about opening yourself up to yourself. Oh my gosh, I could just go on and on about this. But anyways, okay, so I'm going to let you go for today. I really do hope that you found this helpful. And if you did find it helpful, maybe share it with a friend if you feel like it might help them. So until next time, I want you just to remember that your choices matter and your intuition is so powerful and you are more capable than you might realize yet. I am here always cheering you on. And if you want to dig deeper into your journey and you want to walk alongside me on your journey, I'm going to invite you to jump into the Journey to VBAC membership. Now, doors open this Friday. For sure, for sure. They open this Friday. And I think that's what, February 7th? Let me see. Let me do my days. Yes, February 7th at 10 a.m. And I'm going to do like a pop-up Instagram live just to kind of talk about it and just to give you some insights into it and everything. But it's going to be open and it's only going to be open for 10 days. Well, okay, so it's going to be open forever, but it's going to be open for 10 days at the price of $19 per month, which I feel like is crazy low for what you're going to get. So you're going to get a whole course, a whole preparing for your VBAC course and you're going to get into a community. I have a dedicated community with different threads where you're going to get to interact with other VBAC hopefuls. And you're going to have a live Q&A with me. You're going to have a Q&A opportunity with an expert, a doula, a midwife, an OBGYN, a pelvic floor therapist. I mean, there's so many people that are willing to come into this community to help nurture my fellow VBAC hopefuls. You know what I mean? Like, oh my gosh, I'm just so excited about this. And I don't know, I created this because I felt so alone on my journey when I was preparing for my VBAC. And it was just so hard. And there's so many times that I wished I had had somebody to walk the journey with that understood me. And I don't know, like the free public Facebook groups just didn't feel like the place for me to be able to feel like I could open up the way I wanted to. So that's why I created this private VBAC group. Um, because it's included with the course too, so you get both. You can learn the basics, learn all the things, how to hone into your intuition, how to release fear. Like there's so many different things inside of there, but then you can also come into the community and talk about it. If you need some extra guidance or you don't understand a certain thing and you need help through it, like there's so much in there. And I created this because in a way, it's what I wish I would have had. All of the things I've added into that. But also, when you become a founding member, and if you join in the first 10 days after I launch this, you'll be a founding member at the price of $19 per month. And you are going to help me, you're going to get to help me tailor this to exactly what you need on your journey. And I just created this from such a place of love and service. But anyways, I wanted to create this space for you. And I really hope that if it feels aligned for you, that you will join me in there and feel comfortable to just walk this journey with me. So if that feels like something that aligns with you, go ahead and head to birthingcometrue.com/membership waitlist. And then you will be on the waitlist and you will be one of the first people to know exactly when I launch. And then Friday, you'll be able to get in there. So I'm so very excited. And thank you so much for joining me. And I will see you next week. I hope you loved that episode as much as I loved creating it. And if you want to learn more, be sure to download your free VBAC resource guide for even more tips and advice at birthingcometrue.com/VBAC guide. And don't forget to subscribe to the Journey to VBAC so you never miss an episode. Until next time, trust in yourself and remember, you are amazing no matter how your birth unfolds. Bye for now.